Hi everyone. I wanted to talk about using AI to help you study for your programming classes. Now, a lot of what I'm going to talk about does apply to other classes as well, but I just wanted to kind of go through some different tips and tricks I have for you that I typically give my classes. So the first thing is it would help to know what the format of the test is. So I typically give my students a little bit of a heads up. For example, I might say it's going to be 40 to 50 questions, mostly multiple choice, true, false. Maybe we mix in a couple of short answer things. So, for example, a good start to the prompt then would be something like this. I will make the prompts available for you to download so you don't have to type everything you see here if you want to use them. But notice, first thing is, since I typically teach at a community college, I put that information in there. This should help the AI to kind of zero in on the topics that we're going to be discussing. So in this case, the most recent course I was teaching for Intro to Programming was a Python programming course for information technology, cybersecurity students, not computer science majors. So it's important to kind of identify that role. That way they don't think you are taking programming for, Harvard or University of Michigan or something at a different level. So here's the information that I give the students. I tell them it will be 40 to 50 multiple choice and true false questions, along with programming exercises. Now, in this case, the test that I am using here, this is a later test, but you'll see that it does say we're covering string operation, dictionary sets, and classes. And then I give a little further clarification there. And again, I gave these prompts to my students. So at this point, I'm going to have this accept this. And I'm doing this just so it doesn't go off and do its own thing. Sometimes it's going to go and try to figure out what I want it to do. At this point, the next thing I can provide it is I can provide a little more detail. So one thing I like to do, although there is a challenge with it, is I like to have it do this idea of an interactive and adaptive study buddy. And what that's going to mean is, if I'm sure you've seen this in plenty of assignments and online resources before, if you get a question right, it'll let you do a more difficult one. If you get it wrong, it'll give you something of a similar difficulty. Now, the problem with this is that if you go and you do a lot of this, it is going to use up, if you have a free account, as I do currently, if you use a free account, it is going to use up those credits, and you're going to run into problems with your quota and having to come back. So this is a good way for us to do this, but it may require a subscription. So I did want to point that out, but I'm not going to use that for the moment because I'll probably go over my quota almost immediately as well. But this would be a good spot for us to do that. Now, in this case, again, I provided this to my students, but I've given them a list of the topics that were going to be covered. Very specifically, I generated the test, and then I went back and generated, here's the stuff that we are going to be covering. So, and if we were to do this, you'll see it creates a study guide. And that is pretty much what we covered there. And at this point, I could go in and start to practice the stuff that maybe I don't feel strongly on. Again, I didn't use the adaptive study guide where it's kind of generating questions and so on, which is going to use a little more of the processing power. Now I'm going to pick something that is absolutely wrong here. I'm going to pick A. So you see it generated a multiple choice question, and you see it gives us a explanation. And if I'm really, still confused, I could absolutely go in and say, I don't know what the heck you're talking about. Please explain to me. And you can see that it will walk us through that. And I could go in and now ask for can I get a sample problem on strings? And remember we talked about, I said there might be 2 or 3 sample things there. And you can see that it is going to tell us to do this. Now, typically when I give this to students, I'm going to give them, this should be about 5 lines of code or whatever, just so you don't, I know when I was in college, it was like, okay, I don't know how deep I should be getting into this. So giving a number of things in there, giving an approximation would be good. So in this case, this is probably more complex than I would give my students, but that's absolutely fine. And you'll see it'll let me kind of do this. So this is a way that I can use the AI to do this. Now, what's even more interesting is if you're, and I know not all the students have the money to buy the books, and you have those types of challenges. The AI tools are going to be able to go out and access the table of contents of these textbooks. So let me create a new chat here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that same starting prompt and I'm going to start with this. And then what I'm going to tell it to do is, instead of going in and because, not all your professors are going to give you that level of detail, I think it's Tony Gaddis. So, you can go in here and tell it based on this textbook, which again, don't say it too loud, but you don't have the, you don't even have to purchase it. But I could tell you from having taught this course, the first chapter is computer hardware, computer basics, very little programming in chapter 1. Chapter 2 does little data types and so on. Chapter 2 gets into just basics of programming. And then chapter 3 should get into, arithmetic operations, things like that. And then you can see it even generated some programming exercises for us to use down bottom. And this is a way for us to do that. We can generate this, this type of exercise, this type of study guide. And this way, it maybe takes a little of the mystery out of it. Even if your professors don't provide you with a study guide, which, honestly, I often did not. When I was teaching, I would tell people what was covered. I wouldn't give a study guide because then I would also get complaints. Hey, you said this is a study guide, and there was stuff that wasn't on there. But I want to show you that this also works with just about any AI tool. So we can go in here. So very similar. And let's say instead of Python with Tony Gaddis, I don't even remember the title of it. but I know Liang has an Intro to Java textbook that we used. So, and you can see it even, I didn't even think as I pasted it, but I should have said an Intro to Java class, but you see it's figured out. Here's the study guide, the stuff that will be covered in those first, or in that textbook. I'm just going to stop here. Liang used to do, I don't think he does the Python book anymore, but he used to do a Python book. And you can go in there and say, and let's say we want to start with 20 multiple choice questions only. Going to do its little processing, and eventually it should come up with something there. And again, we're just telling it to use the online resources, go out, look up the table of contents, and use whatever resources it has to generate that. So, and again, you can see over here, and again, whatever AI tool you want to use is fine, but notice that Gemini does bring this up here as a, like, I'll pick a wrong answer here. And you can see it gives me a little bit of detail there. So it does a little more than what you might find on ChatGPT there. You can see generates a little bit of a hint. And again, this should replace a lot of times there were study guides that students would put together, but something like this where it can actually go in, look up the textbook and generate a study guide. I think that's going to be a great way for you to use that AI to study for the test. And again, this should work for just about any class. You could also go in and do that with the your psychology or your physics or whatever class you might want to look at as well. But again, the challenge is going to be oftentimes when you hit those limits, it's going to want you to come back at another time, but there's nothing saying you can't use multiple AI tools as well and switch between them. So hopefully this gives you some ideas on how you might use AI to study. And if I'm a professor, and I am, I don't have any problem with this because you are using the AI to help you prepare, not using the AI to do your homework for you. And that's typically what professors are upset about. So hopefully this helps someone, and take care.